UK court rules transgender men cannot legally be listed as father on child's birth certificate. Now in the article you see it's written as birth certificate, but I assume they're not talking about the Jewish ritual of circumcision, but rather talking about the actual birth certificate of the baby where all its details is written. So yeah, before we begin today's story, guys, make sure to drop a like on this video, share it around, maybe comment with your opinion on it. Your interactions with this channel is what helps promote the channel and spread the news to other new viewers. If you are a new viewer, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of the future videos. Let's read the story and then we'll talk about it. A London court ruled that a female to male transgender man who gave up hormone therapy in order to conceive a baby does not have the right to be listed as a father on the child's birth certificate. Now, this is quite a surprising ruling, at least to me as an outsider, because following the UK news, they are pretty pro-transgender and they have a ton of pro-trans laws, even to the point of actually investigating transphobic comments. As you can see from the story, we'll read it shortly. Two women actually got investigated by the police for making transphobic comments. Where is it exactly? Oh, yeah. Miss Kim Minshall, a mother of four, said investigating people because of their legally held views was a complete waste of police time. I agree. The 44-year-old was first interviewed by West Yorkshire Police last year on suspicion of malicious communication, following a complaint from Miss Green, who runs the Mermaids charity. Two officers travels to Wiltshire, where she lives, and questioned her for several hours over 6 tweets she had posted. That case was eventually closed with no further action, despite officers undertaking a victim's review following a request by Miss Green. But she has revealed that she is now the subject of a second police investigation, this time by Wiltshire Force. So again, that's not the only story of this thing happening. The police actually investigating people for transphobic comments, but there's another one that I can't seem to remember if it's the same story in here. But one of the women who was investigated actually spent the night in jail while she was investigated for the transphobic comments. So it can be really serious when it comes to the UK, which is why it's so surprising that they actually ruled against this transgender man. Let's read the story. Freddy McConnell, a 34-year-old freelance journalist who writes for the British left-wing newspaper The Guardian, said that he was disappointed with the quote conservative decision by the court, but that he had planned to take the case to the Supreme Court. The presiding judge in the case, Lord Burnett, said that under the Gender Recognition Act, McConnell is required to be registered as the child's mother, adding that a change to the law would have to come from a parliament rather than the court. So even the UK law recognizes that gender is sex-based, which is why it's so weird that they would investigate transphobic comments. I guess it still counts as a hate crime because they are a protected class. But if they argue, if their laws specifically state that gender is sex-based, it's weird that they have it as well for transphobic comments. Let's read on. From the moment of birth, someone must have parental responsibility for a newly born child, for example, to authorize medical treatment and more generally to become responsible for its care, Lord Burnett said, according to the BBC. No one else has that automatic parental responsibility, including the father, he added, citing the Children Act of 1989. In response to the ruling, McConnell said that the laws governing families and gender are, quote, out of date, adding that any right-thinking person can see inconsistencies in the law. So that's what the journalist said, just to make sure that's not what the judge said. Andrew Spearman, a lawyer at Layton's law firm, decried the ruling, saying that it failed to recognize McConnell's chosen gender. Just in my opinion, I don't think that I think sex and gender are intertwined and basically the same thing. and the UK law recognizes it as well, as you can see from the ruling and what the judge cited. Quote, and importantly, the role he takes in his son's life as his father. This is the reality his son will grow up knowing, and today's judgment shows how the law has not kept pace, Spearman continued. Now, this is quite a confusing situation, especially for the kid. Apparently, it's his son, so the kid is going to grow up with a female father figure, which is really, really weird. Obviously, there's not enough literature or studies that document this phenomena, and we can't attest to if it's good or ineffective either way. But for me, it seems like a disservice to the kid not growing up with a male father figure that can really teach him on how to be quote-unquote a man. Let's read on. The decision was applauded, however, by feminist activist Maya Forstater, who wrote, quote, in this case, the consistency of self-perception had to give way to the consistency that only women give birth, and people who give birth are mothers. Not a controversial take for me, but this is definitely a controversial take for most of social media nowadays, especially on Twitter and YouTube. Not a woke take at all. Quote, someone who gives birth is not just a female that day, but on the day they were born with eggs inside, when they went through puberty. I don't know why she written through like that. Maybe it's in a tweet, saving characters. When they recognized their sexual orientation every time they ovulated and menstruated, worried about getting pregnant, through lactation, menopause, etc., Forrester added. In 2019, Ms. Forrester was fired from her job at the Center for Global Development after writing online that, quote, men cannot change into women. Now that's a spicy take that I completely disavow in SJW Central 2. Earlier this year, a judge ruled that her firing was justified as her gender-critical position, quote, is incompatible with human dignity and fundamental rights of others. This is a different story that's annoying altogether. But yeah, Miss Forstater is not making any controversial take, and she is right. Everyone who gives birth is female, and mothers. By that, we know that mothers are only people who are capable of giving birth. So yeah, that's why obviously the judge ruled that the transgender man could not be listed as a father, and it's probably because it has some legal consequences as well if you are listed as a father instead of the mother, when it comes to probably certain benefits or power you have over the child's over as a guardian of that child. So it's not strictly to the fact that they don't allow them, quote unquote, to identify as the father of the baby, but it probably has some legal consequences. So yeah, what do you guys think of this story? This is definitely a headline straight out of what do they call it? Twilight stories. Completely ridiculous notion that a mother can become a father. I'm somewhat progressive socially. Like if you ask me to use a female or a male pronoun towards someone, I would use it just out of being polite. So I won't force my personal opinions on that matter on that person. And I would be very, very, like I said, polite towards that person because he's experiencing such a hard life for having this issue. I don't think, however, that we can blur that line to the point where we now call mothers fathers. Okay, I can call you a he or a she, whichever you prefer, not they, obviously, but I won't call a mother a father, and I'm pretty sure the law doesn't intend to, especially when it will intertwine with other legal issues. that will come out of calling a mother a father. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Leave your opinions in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like on it, maybe share it around. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video.